Okay, let's start with part number 5. The directive of part number 5 is how to deploy code. So basically, we will be sending the code from Jenkins to another virtual machine, in this case, a Docker container. That Docker container will just run Debian. We'll start with a simple plain Debian container, and then we are going to install all the dependencies we need for Jenkins to be able to connect to that node. Okay, so let's get started, and we can start our container with that command. That way we are running a Docker container, IT to attach to the container after it's up and running. We want to attach as the user root. Specified the RM so it removes upon restarting it again. I will be calling it agent, and I will be forwarding to ports. These ports will be the production and the staging port. And as operating system, I'm going to pick Debian. Okay, so we are in here. Let's just run a quick update and install the last upgrades. And then we are going to install a few dependencies. So first I will need a editor to edit files on here. We will also need the Java runtime environment. So I'll be picking version 11, which comes in Debian 10. And then we also need to install an SSH server. So Jenkins can connect to this container through SSH. And then we also need to install Git and curl. So Git is that Jenkins can then execute a clone, and we can check out the project from GitHub directly from the second container. And then we also need to install Node.js. I think by default, Debian 10 ships with Node version 10. So let's check that after these packages have installed. And if it's version 10, we also need to upgrade to version 12. So let's check the version of Node.js. Yeah, this ships with version 12. So we are going to download the last version. Well, not the last version, but the last stable version. And SSH is also not being started automatically, so we need to start that. Okay, so now we have all the dependencies in place, and we will need a user under which to run it. I do not want to run the stuff as root, so I'm going to add a user called Jenkins, and I will just enter password 1234, and again. And afterwards, I'm going to remove the password. So by using the usermod -p, we will be specifying the hashed value of the user password. And if that is set to start, whatever password you enter, the hash will never become a star. So basically keeping the user active but disabling any sort of password login. And then we can switch over to the user and change to the home directory. And in here, I will just run the SSH keygen. This is just so it creates the SSH folder with the proper permissions. Okay, so we now have everything installed that we need to run this stuff on here. Now the next step would be to tell Jenkins a way how Jenkins can connect to this server. So this container runs on this local IP. The other container runs on a similar IP but ending in .1, in .2. Okay, so next what we need is we need to create a SSH key pair, which I already prepared the command over here. And then we will add that to we will add the private key to the Jenkins credential store and add the public key in here. Then Jenkins can connect to this container over SSH. Okay, let's head over to Jenkins, go to the credential section. And here we are going to add another credential pair set. And again, we are going to check SSH username with private key. I will be inserting the name that I just gave the SSH key. And as a username, I'm going to specify Jenkins because we want to connect as Jenkins. Then let's take a look at the private key and copy paste that. And we can insert it over here. Again, we didn't enter any passphrase, so we don't have to fill that out. And now Jenkins knows that it can connect using this credential set, but we still need to connect the actual agent. So we are going to go to Manage Jenkins and head over to Manage Nodes. And we are going to enter a new node. I would just call it node example 2 minus production. Select permanent agent and click OK. Then we are going to enter the user directory, which is home Jenkins. At least I think. Let's check that. Yeah, that is home Jenkins. As a usage, we are going to specify only builds jobs with label expressions matching this node. So we only want to send builds to this node whenever we actually specify that in the Jenkins file. We are going to select launch agents via SSH as the launch method. And then we are going to specify the host name. We got that from the IPA over here. As a credential set, we can now specify the Jenkins user we created. And as a host key verification strategy, we can just not verify that at the moment. You can verify that and then have to approve it in the graphical user interface, but we don't need that for now. Okay, so now we can see the node, click on it, and launch the agent. Okay, so it tells us that the authentication failed. And I think this is because I forgot to edit the authorized keys file. And in here, I would need to enter the public key. So let's go back and try that one more time. And there we go. We can now have a connection to this server. Now the node is up and running, and in the next part, we will go through how we can actually use this node inside the Jenkins file.